Hi, welcome back to the second half of tonight's show where John, Dave and myself are going to look forward to our encounter next Friday night against Glasgow and also review the line selection. So when we get the line selection out of the way.
Disappointingly uncontentious.
Yeah.
I think is the adjective that could be used.
They took a lot of centres and very few Scots.
Oh, I think the Scots might be a bit pissed off.
Well, the Scots might be a bit pissed off, but all they have to do is get better at rugby.
They won two matches in the
they did.
16.
But here's the thing, like, Gatland isn't going to select a team based on last week. He selects a team based on looking at players over a period of time. Yeah. Our loss to Scotland was considered, if not a disaster, then certainly calamitous. Mm-hmm. You know, we were not happy about losing that match. You know, so that's where Scotland are. He's brought their best player. Would you bring Finn Russell?
Finn Russell, instead of Dan Biggar, in the form Biggar's in at the moment, possibly.
He's a bit head and shoulders.
He is a bit head and shoulders, but and Biggar isn't, I suppose. Biggar as well generally hasn't been. He's been the reliable.
Except against us, there, match
but,
you were over
but
it.
the last few games, that's what I'm saying. His form, he's shot like. So maybe I would bring Finn Russell. The other guy you might think about is Johnny Gray. But like the competition in that second row is fairly ferocious.
Yeah.
Would you have him ahead of Donncha Ryan? Would you have him ahead of? Who would you have him ahead of? Like, you know, so it's hard to see. Yes, Scotland are in a period of renaissance.
So the phrase you want is Leinster. Leinster want to join Donncha Ryan.
Stop.
Leinster wannabe Donncha Ryan.
That's awful. that's an awful thing to be saying. So
is he definitely going to France?
I don't. Hasn't been officially announced either way, but I just don't see where the other Scottish players are coming from. Who you know, Nell is injured. He might have got a shout getting in. There's no one really else that's jumping up and down at me. You know that
Maitland wasn't even. He was as close to a poor player on the Saracens team as there was. So
he might have gone in on the Kiwi factor, but he was always going to take a few Kiwis. Jared Payne was the surprise Kiwi.
Yeah.
You know?
But the thing was, I suppose Glasgow, you know, they obviously won the Pro 12 a couple of seasons ago. They got to the quarter final of Europe, but it probably put it, like we see them more regularly than say some of the English media might. But like it was no surprise that they were beaten so badly by Saracens, because they're not a particularly great team this season. You know, they're fifth.
They've been poor this season. How many times have they played Munster? What is it? 4 times they played Munster this season. They've lost all 4.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so I can't say that there's too much argument. I was delighted. Actually, just want to say I was glad for Ben Teo.
Yeah.
You got Jamie Roberts' place.
You got Jamie Roberts' place. I was glad for him because he joined Leinster in difficult times, and a difficult time for himself indeed. And he always did well for us. He always did his best for us, and I was glad to see him get a bit of reward for it.
Yeah.
It's a guy I always liked.
Yeah, I'd say some of us are disappointed that Ringrose wasn't selected, but it might be like he's still a young man, just developing. He's only 21, 22.
He'd get killed over in New Zealand by those animals.
Catch him first.
Yeah. No, look, I'm not saying the guy is tough as nails for given his age and his physique, which is developing rapidly.
Have you ever stood beside Gary Ringrose?
I
have. He's big.
He isn't.
He's 6'1".
Yeah,
that's big compared to me. I'm 5'9.5".
Yeah, well, I'm 6'1", and I stood beside him now. Admittedly, it was a year or two ago, and I just saw this kid in a hoodie, and I thought, you know, could have been one of my daughter's mates or something. And I realised it was Gary Ringrose, and he had little spindly legs. He was, you know, now he has developed.
He's not spindly now.
He has developed a little bit, but he's willowy. As the adjective I always use is he's willowy.
He's mixing it up, and we saw
he can mix it for the size of him.
We
he
saw
can mix
a fantastic try that he scored. Like he uses his guile, his step, his speed to
he's
evade.
tough.
Yeah, but
I wouldn't worry about him against New Zealand. I would have no
he's played
physical
against
worries
New
about
Zealand
him.
already.
I'd have no physical worries about him.
But just for his own development, I mean,
he's in a position that's actually not weak.
I'm being selfish. I just want to keep him for Leinster and Ireland.
I think he's in a position that in the lines terms. I mean, Watson had a really good year as well, so he was kind of in with that, and Jonathan Davies, who's like Gatland's favourite.
Yeah, like I wouldn't have brought Davies. Davies is in rubbish form. He really is. There's better. I think for the tests, Scotland is probably going to go Sexton, Farrell, Ringrose, and if Sexton
Henshaw,
and if if Sexton is injured, I'd say you go Farrell, Henshaw, maybe Joseph.
You know,
Something like that.
you know. I mean, you could.
Or you could go Davies just to.
Yeah, sorry, just you could start Jared Payne. Coaches who work with Jared Payne pick Jared Payne.
Yeah.
He's a guy that coaches love. I mean, nobody expected him to be in that line squad. I
I
don't
wonder
think
if
anyone
they pick my
really.
fullback, would they?
But he.
They could do
Gatlin
that
has
as
one
well.
conversation with him, and the guy's in the line squad. You know, I think if Gatlin spoke to Joe Schmidt and said, "Who's your guy?" he'd say, "Jared Payne is my guy."
I heard O'Driscoll of an interview, or doing an interview on News Talk, and he said something like he was at some former Lions captain's dinner thing, and anyway, he got chatting to Gatlin about it, obviously, and Gatlin had said something along the lines of, "What's your views on Jared Payne?" as part of the conversation. I'm sure there was lots of other bits of conversation, but like we all know, O'Driscoll has only the best regard for Jared Payne and speaks very highly of him. So maybe, Gatlin was sussing him out as a former four-time tourist.
Well, speaking of Kiwis, they like to bring. So I think Gatlin likes to bring somebody who has ties to the place as well for whatever. He's been, anytime I've heard him interviewed, he's been very strong on the fact that he wants people who can buy into the New Zealand, or who know a bit about New Zealand and respect their traditions, and are up for what's going to be coming at them and are aware of how it all works. So somebody like him, but another one who didn't make the cut that some people might have fancied is another Kiwi and the third England captain in a row not to make the Lions. Dylan Hartley, what's his name? Who's now the coach of the Lions, the second row that played for Saracens. Borthwick,
yeah.
Was missed the 2009 Lions when he was England captain, and then last time out, Robshaw was the England captain and didn't make the Lions. Now we've got Dylan Hartley, so I would have thought. He's from Rotorua or from somewhere up that direction, so I would have thought that he would have. The Kiwi factor might have got him over the discipline factor.
I would say Warren Gatlin would have known that if he'd announced Dylan Hartley as a member of the squad, or even as captain, but certainly as a member of the squad, that somewhere in New Zealand a siren would have gone off, and it would have gone, lads, break out Plan Hartley, and they'd wind him up and wind him up and wind him up until he just exploded. And it doesn't take a lot to wind him up sometimes. So I think Gatlin decided that have taken the what's the word of phrase I'm looking for? The better part of valor. Discretion was the better part of valor as far as Hartley was concerned.
Oh yeah, I wouldn't have taken him in it at all. But a lot of people would have thought that.
But I think, say Jones is a bit of a, he's nailed his colours to the mast by selecting him as captain, whereas there's probably a more informed hooker in the England squad. But because they've made Hartley the captain, it's very difficult to kind of drop your captain, or even put him. You can't really put him on the bench.
Ironically, for the Lions, it's easier not to pick your captain for the Lions,
exactly,
because you're the tour captain, as opposed to being the captain of the team. Whereas Dylan Hartley is captain of England; he's captain of the England team. It's much easier for Gatlin. Gatlin has a bit more leeway than Eddie Jones does.
And you can see a situation where even if he's not injured, that the tour captain might not make the test team, and it's been flagged early as well that he said it himself, Warburton, and so as Gatlin. So you can see that he's been taken as because he is such a good guy with media, with all.
He's an impressive individual.
He is an impressive individual, and he's ideal for that kind of. He's very respectful, and he won't get into any trouble with the New Zealand who. There's a lot of New Zealand media out there just waiting to be offended. Somebody farts during a haka or
that's what they
whatever.
do. Like that they will build it up. Remember the Lions, what was it, 12 years ago?
Yeah.
And they said, oh well, the Lions went off and they found some elder in a village and said, well, how was the best way? Oh, put the young fella up there, get a piece of grass and flick it away, whatever.
He fecking through grass with us.
Exactly.
You can't win.
You can't win. No, and I always think that rather than being respectful or whatever, the cultural stuff, do none of it. The only safe thing to say is we're here to play rugby and that's all we're going to do. Don't do any of the cultural tours or anything like that. Just.
But that's part of the gig.
I know, but I mean,
just do what Campo did and bring the ball off into the corner and kick it up.
They don't let you do that anymore.
Yeah,
unfortunately,
Illegal.
It was so funny.
So anyway, turning our attention back to the Pro 12. We've only got a 5-day turnaround. They had to come back from France, so presumably that they've been given today off.
Yeah.
So they're only back training tomorrow for a game on Friday.
The only thing is there's an element of dead rubber about it.
Yeah.
Well, I would think that anyone who played 80 on Sunday is not going to be near the team, and anybody who came off the bench probably will have to come off the bench again, or a few of them will start, and most of them, But I've looked through the team, and we can still field a pretty decent team without, Peter Dooley was on the bench. I think Healy has another week, so he'll be playing against Ulster probably. Jack
Harsh.
McGrath.
Sorry, was that harsh to think to get the 2 weeks?
We didn't. We can't say. We just can't say from the footage we've seen. We've seen one clip, and that's all.
And it's at a low angle almost.
Yeah. Well,
one would have to assume. Well, here's my take on it, right? Cian Healy went in there and pled not guilty, which is unusual. Most times players plead guilty, especially. So you'd say, well, maybe there isn't any video evidence. But my take on it is this.
there has to have been.
Yeah. My take on it is this. If Healy pleads guilty, he gets a 2-week ban. If Healy pleads not guilty, he may get a 2-week ban.
Yeah.
So that's why he pled not guilty. Because the difference between will and may gave him a chance. If he pled guilty, there was no way he was playing last Saturday. Pled not guilty, there was a chance, no matter how slim, that he could play last Sunday. That was why it went the way it went. But he got 2 weeks, and you'd have to assume that there was B-roll.
Well, I said it last week. I thought that it could be dodgy, and that wasn't necessarily based on the footage we saw. Well, it obviously wasn't at all because you couldn't really see anything. But
There's nothing dodgy about the footage we saw.
it was basically the fact that there must have been other, for him to be cited at all, there must have been other footage, and if you look at that from the other side, it could have looked. He could have got a bit more than 2 weeks. So I think 2 weeks is probably.
In the UK, don't the citing in the Aviva Premiership, don't the citing guys at each game use that my play-by-play system?
They might well do. I'm not
I
sure.
think the citing guys use or a similar system in the Premiership. I wonder is it the same here? I don't know.
Not sure. I know that it pretty much. I think my play-by-play has pretty
Dominated
much
the market.
all of the Irish teams. I think are sign up to them anyway.
So I was just wondering if in England they do the citing commissioner has access to video replays as is live, as it were. So I presume it's the same in the project. But here's the thing: he's gone. So Dooley, I'm perfectly happy with Dooley.
Dooley, Tracy, Ross, I was going for on basis that Mike Ross may not start again for Leinster in a home game, so you want to give him a send off. Dominic Ryan also looking like he might be off, so you might start him at 6. Probably Maloney, who was on the bench with Nagel, maybe.
I'd go with that. That would be my choice.
And my little twist in it would be Conan. I don't think is in his full health, so.
But he's the only number 8 we have.
Well, you could. Well, here's my little twist in it. You could go with Ryan at 6, Levy at 7, and Van der Fleer at 8. Because Levy and Van der Fleer kind of split the game between them. I think 50 for one, 55 for one, and 35 for the other, or something. So you could actually get the two of them playing 7 and 8. Maybe Pater Timmins on the bench.
I think
that's pretty much it.
I think Ruddock will start in captain.
Do you?
Whether that's at 6 or 8, I'm not sure.
Well, I never mentioned him in the first.
Yeah, we should
half,
do actually. Yeah,
but
he was superhuman.
super.
He was immense.
Yeah, he was brilliant.
He was immense.
Yeah, absolutely. It has to be said that's possibly our best European performance from a player this season.
He's up there.
And the thing is that he must be under so much pressure because there's kids coming up behind him. There's his kind of, let's say, he's fallen down the pecking order if everyone is fit. And I'm sure he's kind of thinking.
I think he's just pushed himself up a notch or two after
yes,
that.
Yes, I agree. But
great to see.
Everyone just seems to be raising the bar, which is a good thing to see. It is a good thing, but then unfortunately, what you're going to have is someone like Dominic Ryan is going to become surplus for requirements.
He seems to already have.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and then you have say Deegan coming up now. I know he's injured. But you have a young kid like that, and we've got it's almost like.
And Doris not even in the academy yet.
It's like, maybe say 5 or 7 years ago, any young centres was just coming up to this roadblock, this bed blockers of Dricko and Darcy. Now it's almost like, you kind of go, there's another back row coming through. Yeah. And they're just adding to the tailgate in front of them and kind of going,
at the moment, we're pretty much at optimum because we've got enough players with the right amount, so that if you take injury overhead, people are getting enough game time to be happy. One or two more get thrown into that mix, then unhappiness results. But there's not much we can do about that. In terms of Friday night, I would say Ruddock will start as captain, because I think he'll want to keep going with this run of form he's on.
He put in such a shift though. It's very hard to back that up after 5 days. Like he
Well,
really.
The sports scientists, boffins in UCD will know better than what condition he's in. I would say from a attitudinal point of view, he'll want to play.
Yeah, maybe. The people who played the full 80 are Carberry, Ringrose, Henshaw, pretty much all the backs.
I'd give Carberry another start.
Nasewa, Sexton, and then Triggs and Ruddock in the pack. So, like I can see most of them getting a rest.
Personally, I'd start Carberry at fullback again.
I
Just
think-
as an educational
Just
thing.
keep him ticking
Just
over.
keep him ticking.
Because he
he's
missed-
learning the position.
and
You
he
can only
missed-
learn it by playing it.
He missed probably 12 weeks. Was it 12 weeks? No,
Yeah,
it wasn't
yeah.
that many, was it?
It was quite a few weeks.
was a
Yeah.
lot of
Yeah,
weeks,
okay.
Yeah.
He missed anyway a big chunk of the season, 3 months, say, when he got injured over Northampton. So, he still got the schminutes available to him, shall we say, this
That's true.
season.
I'd say the halfbacks that were on the bench, the only person who didn't get off the bench was Ross Byrne. And
I'd say they'll start.
say him and Gibson Park will definitely start. Maybe Nick McCarthy on the bench.
Yeah.
If they don't go with Carberry, then they are a bit light on out half cover. You're either playing Cathal Marsh, who hasn't played in ages. I believe he's back from injury, but he hasn't played in a long time. Or else you're doing something fuzzy, like you're putting
No Reid.
Dom Daly on the bench with no Reid to move to out half in an emergency.
Because I think Noel Reid will start with Rory Loughlin in the centre.
Yeah, oh definitely, yeah. They're nailed on to start
Yeah.
because Henshaw and Ringrose are going nowhere, I would say, after the game they had. You've still got Andrew Byrne, Adam
Andy Byrne.
Adam Byrne didn't
Andy, no, it's not Andrew, it's Andy.
Adam Byrne didn't feature in the game, so he'll probably start. And you could have Barry Daly on the other wing.
You could have Isa on the other wing.
You could have Isa back again. You could have Kirshner. You could have Kirshner at full back. You could have Carberry at full back. There are a lot of options there. You could have Cronin starting instead of Tracy. I say, don't know if Strauss will be playing. You could have
You'd have Mick Carney instead of Maloney or instead of Nagel.
you could have Mick Carney on the bench.
I think they'll want to go with one of Nagel, Toner, or Triggs, just for the size of them.
Can't see Triggs playing.
No, but they'll want to go with one of those three, and I'd say the option will be Nagel.
Well, if they're fit.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
What
but
if-
just in terms of, if you pick Mick Carney and Ross Maloney, you have two very short locks.
But what it kind of doesn't equate to is poor Al Ulster might be looking at a serious team coming up to play them in Ravenhill because most of the heavy hitters are not going to play
No.
this week, so
Well,
they're going to have a week off for the Heineken Cup final. So I can see a lot of heavy hitters needing to be kept going with a game in Ravenhill
The other side of that is we could go with the heavy hitters tomorrow on Friday,
and give them a long
and
rest.
then give them the 2 weeks off. There's the other side of that as well.
Who knows? Who knows?
yeah, it'd be
But it's
interesting.
gonna-
Probably a
selection.
mixture.
It's gonna be, it'll probably be somewhere like, they'll split the difference. But aren't we fortunate to be in a position where we can have so many exciting options in so many positions?
And that
And
it's a
the
dead
five.
rubber.
Yeah, and
You
there's
know,
a dead rubber.
but there's no need to go and flog the team.
No.
Like they put in a monumental second half performance yesterday, and it was warm enough. You know what I mean? Like it was certainly a lot warmer than it is in Dublin. So that's going to take then that matchup was whatever time was over 6 o'clock over there. Lads probably had a bite to eat and headed home, so they're going to be off today. So they're only on 3 days training.
But they hardly need much
The
to
thing
keep
is-
themselves taken over.
Yeah.
I'd say they might have-
There's nothing to be gained from finishing first, except the honour of finishing first.
not to be sniffed at.
Not to be sniffed at, but there's no ranking points. There's nothing.
Well, the other thing is,
I suppose finishing first makes you up against possibly playing Ulster, which
Yeah.
would be a derby match, which I can't imagine that they want because you know yourself, Ulster could bring down 5,000
And
fans.
then move to the Aviva and everybody's winning.
I don't know. I can see Scarlets. Scarlets are going to come third, I reckon. And this game this weekend between the Ospreys and Ulster is for fourth place.
Yeah.
If Ospreys lose
Yeah,
this,
yeah.
they're gone.
Yeah.
And if Ulster lose this,
And
they're
that game
gone
is where?
in Australia.
Mhm.
So yeah, but this could be their fourth or fifth on the bench to lose. You know,
Yeah.
they're in a free fall. Then
Okay.
again, so are Ulster. So
It's which dead cat bounces higher.
That's true.
it's one of those. Yeah,
I'd
it's
say they can't wait for John O'Gibbs to come along.
it's the only top six game on this weekend because like Munster are in Treviso.
We're looking for the third win in the row.
Scarlets are in. Still no worse. Scarlets are in Connacht. We're obviously at home to Glasgow, who are not in the top six, and the only real meeting in the top six is Ulster and the Ospreys. So
Scarlets and
therefore it's
Connacht should
Sky's
be
featured match.
a good match on the eye.
Yeah, I'll be looking forward
An
to that.
enjoyable
Alright.
watch.
If Connacht can restore a bit of pride because it's in Connachtania
Or just Galway.
or Galway for the uninitiated. It's in Galway, so anything could happen there. The Scarlets are a real bunch of sluggers these last two seasons. They're like from being a team that was really into throwing the ball around. They're now a team that won,
But-
well in it for the fight.
But they're
Let's not forget they drew with Saracens and they almost beat them. It was only a runaway Chris Ashton try in the end of that game
It's true.
that made them
But
made that
you
a
know
draw. You know,
what they're doing again, and they did it with George North, and they're doing it now with Liam Williams.
flogging
They're
them off
getting
the Saracens.
like they're bringing through very talented young players, and I know it's a small town and probably doesn't have a whole load of money splashing around it,
That's true.
but it's just it's such a shame that they are kind of a selling club.
If you become a selling club in any sport, it's very hard not to become. It's very hard to break out of that pattern. It took Southampton, for example, in football, a long time to break out of that pattern. They still really haven't. Crewe Alexandria is a classic example of a selling club in English football. In terms of rugby, because the game is so new,
Newcastle are a big. Leicester seem to always
yeah,
plunder Newcastle's academy.
because rugby is so new and the concept of actually buying and selling players has barely even entered into the sport
Well, there's
yet.
no transfer fees
Yeah,
really. So
yeah, yet that we know of. So it'll be interesting to see how that works out.
But they do. I mean, like I know that say when your man went to Northampton, like he didn't want to go,
no,
and was Saints were pushing or
Scarlets.
Scarlets were pushing the move.
No, yeah, they pushed
Yeah.
him out the door like.
just because they wanted him off the books in terms of cash, and there was obviously some form of a transfer fee coming there or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah.
to sweeten the deal for them.
And simply couldn't or wouldn't pay his.
It'll be interesting to see now
Six-figure
we've got
salary.
a slightly more wealthy WRU, how that changes. Of course, all the issues around even Dragons aren't finished yet.
12th of May, I think,
That vote still has to
is
happen.
the vote day. My wedding anniversary.
Is it?
It is.
It'll be 3 days before my wife's birthday. See, I did remember.
That's both of us remembering.
Yeah,
Hey!
Yay, husbands! but so that vote is a key vote for the future of, obviously the Newport Grand Dragons. Well, it's not a good
Rugby in Rodney Parade is what
Yeah.
it's the future of.
The Dragons will survive because Welsh Rugby Union said
They can
if
put them
they're not
somewhere,
playing
yeah.
in Rodney Parade, they'll play somewhere else. And if they're not playing in Rodney Parade, it's goodbye Rodney Parade.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's going to be interesting to see how that works out.
And presumably we won't know anything for a little while about what's happening in Italy with their franchise team, if they're going to move to Rome or.
What they're going to do, yeah.
Because both teams have actually
There's-
been putting in some decent performances recently.
Yeah.
Edinburgh could go behind Treviso if they get another win in the
If they
derby.
get the third, that's it. I mean, or the third in a row.
They're hardly going to beat Munster even with all their injuries.
But well, you never know.
I know
Munster could
Ironi
have a very
did, but-
could have a very weak team.
They could.
Yeah. And Munster traditionally have kind of switched off the week after Europe. We'll see. I don't think
might
they will.
smell blood.
I wouldn't be massively surprised if it happened.
Well, a Munster fan did say to me on Saturday that once they've lost that the stuffing's been knocked out of them and they'll just be like a balloon with the air gone out of them. They'll fade.
But like we saw how it affected Leinster in the glory days, even playing in Pro 12 finals. I remember going
After the
down.
Lord Mayor show.
Well, it is a bit. I remember going down to Munster to play in the Pro 12 final
Yeah.
shortly after, or a week after we'd beaten
Northampton.
Northampton,
Yeah.
and just to
The lads were still drunk.
well, I'm
On
sure
the pitch.
I'm sure that they were emotionally drained from that, and I've no doubt that they're emotionally drained after the match over in France,
Yeah.
and I presume Munster are emotionally drained after their
Absolutely.
performance against Harry's. So it's very hard to keep, the level of performance up to the same to the standard as of
And the reason I think that Leinster might-
playing playing in front of 50,000
motivator.
people in the Aviva in
2,000
European
in
Cup,
Treviso.
and 2,000 in Treviso. Yeah.
And the one thing Munster are going against them is they have compared to Leinster, they have a shallow squad. They don't seem to have that amount of depth of quality that Leinster have.
Maybe not the same quality, but they do have quite a few players that the likes of the Copelands and the Conor Olivers and
But you're talking about fellas that aren't in Narcissus Roar getting near the international team. Like there's fellas
course
down on
not.
our bench that are internationals. Like
well, that's what I'm saying. The quality isn't as high,
No.
but they do have.
Oh, I'm sorry,
Players that
I'm
can-
sorry, I was talking about depth of quality. Sorry. Yeah. I still expect Munster to beat Treviso, but I wouldn't be surprised if they didn't. That's what I'd say.
Geez, I would.
Because Treviso have a history of waiting in the long grass.
But you've got to believe they'll be psyched up for this because the following game, I think they're at home. I'm not sure whether they're at home or away. But the last is the derby game between them and Zebre, and they're definitely going to be psyched up for that.
Yeah.
So I can see them building in. They've had a week off, and like you say, in the long grass to be working on this, and I'm sure they've been input from Conor O'Shea to try and help them get to where they need to be mentally. Which that's one of his big party tricks is
Yeah.
working on the mental side of the players. So it remains to be seen. All right, you never know.
We've certainly had a certain amount of interest in the last few weeks. I mean, there are, as you said, there are a number of dead rubbers just knocking around the place. So there are still games to be interested in. I think the idea of having the local derbies as the last round of games, there are positives and negatives, but one of the things is they do take the dead rubberness off games.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Munster and Connacht, for example,
Yeah.
they'll want to knock lumps out of each other no matter what's at stake. Probably nothing for either side.
Yeah.
Because Connacht are going to finish in 7th or 8th and be in a playoff.
No matter what they do.
And sometimes, I believe that if you're in 8th, you actually get an easier draw because you have a chance of getting a home in the second playoff.
Well, didn't that happen? Like that happened to Claremont, right?
Yeah.
Within that they got a home.
Yeah.
We won our home quarter, but managed to go away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think it's to try and encourage away wins.
It is,
Yeah.
But the one team, the 7th place play the seventh in the Premiership or Challenge Cup winners of that country, which could be Gloucester.
Yeah.
Because Gloucester are outside the top 7. And I had a quick look at the top 14. Haven't done any looking at it at all, but I just had a quick look at the table, and 6th to 11th in the top 14 are separated by a point.
It's
A
down
point.
49 to 52, isn't it?
53.
Yeah.
No, it's literally 1 point.
Yeah.
52 and 53.
Oh, 53, yeah. A whole bunch. I was looking at myself. Yeah, it's ridiculous. Like,
So
yeah.
God knows who's going to be
What
7th in
bastard
that.
drew? Someone drew in there. Drew an away match instead of chucking it.
Cheats.
Who knows what team is going to be there? But the Stade Francais are in the final, and they're down. So the winner of the
It's Stade Francais. It's always Stade Francais.
yeah.
Stade Francais are doomed to perpetually play in the Challenge Cup.
Well,
They beat Bath, didn't they?
whoever wins that is going to be like it could be
Last minute
Gloucester.
job.
It could be Gloucester, and whoever wins between Gloucester and Stade Francais will be the opposition for either Cardiff or Connacht in the playoffs to get into the next year's top competition. So that could be a very juicy little game, and I think you go away. Well, both Pro 12 teams are away in the first round, and if they win, they're away. I think whoever is playing in France has a chance of getting, and that's the lower qualified team, has a chance of getting a home playoff for the second round. So we'll see.
Clear?
That could
No,
be
me
interesting.
neither.
Well, anyway, boys, as ever, very entertaining, and thanks very much for watching. And I'd just like to say thanks very much to Jonathan and Kate who came up to me to say hello over in France. Anyway, boys, as
Hi,
ever.
Jonathan Cage.
Anyway, thanks very much. Cheers.